Take your event to the next level with Crossroads TV. Professional audio and video production, multi-camera live streaming, audio system for your panels and entertainment, plus stunning video screen production on LED walls. High quality, seamless production tailored to your needs. Let us bring your vision to life. Contact us today.
Everybody's had a chance to look at those. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, public hearings. Public hearing, Fairfield Apartments for Kennebec Valley Community Action Program, major subdivision application at 63 High Street for a proposed 27 dwelling unit subdivision identified on tax map 25 lot 29, zoned urban residential. So I'd like to open up, good evening, Jeff. How are you tonight? I'd like to open up, if you want to present before the public hearing.
Sure. What I'd like to do for the public hearing is just a very quick orientation. So if somebody's not familiar with the project, they'll know where it is and what we intend to do with it. As you mentioned, this is at 63 High Street. It's the old elementary school. It used to be the old high school. And KV-CAP has a purchase and sale agreement on that. They want to buy it and renovate the inside to put in some residential units, some low-income housing. And there's also on the parcel, there's a small building out back that's going to be demolished and replaced with a slightly larger building. So between the school building and the additional units that they're building out back, there'll be 27 new apartment units. And those are varying from 1 to 3 bedrooms, so it'll be good for families. We've also got 34 parking spaces that we spoke about that with the planning board a month ago, and we can discuss that a little bit more later. But since last month, we've got additional information from the water and sewer departments here in town, and fire chief and police chief. And so we're just looking to gather any other comments from the public at this time, I guess.
Very good. Thank you, Jeff. We are in public hearings, so anybody here from the public that wants to speak to this item on our agenda, let's go ahead. Now, I know you sent out how many res letters?
All the exact quantity.
Quite a few.
A few, yeah. Actually,
13?
Yeah.
Lucky 13. So, of those letters to abutters, is anybody here tonight to speak to this item on our agenda? Jeff, I don't mean to give you a hard time, but...
This is really stressing me.
I see that. How about, is anybody zooming in on this issue?
Nobody that I know of.
Okay. Hearing no comments or no issues for the public hearing, at this time I'd like to close the public hearing. Thank you all for coming. That was great. Unfinished business, item 4, none. New business, we have Mr. Randy Butler here tonight, Derigo Engineering, representing Bill Sturdivant, DW LLC, on a pre-application sketch plan discussion on Phase 2 Reservoir Hill subdivision, application for the Phase 2 subdivision, 11 more dwelling lots, numbers 17 to 28 on tax map 2, lot 9, zoned rural residential on 26.56 acres. Discussion. Randy, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Randy Butler. I'm with Dirigo Engineering, representing DW LLC. I've got a handout there in front of you. There's a 8.5 by 11 sheet titled Reservoir Hill Subdivision. Just kind of a quick summary orientation on the project. The owner, DW LLC, is also owns Ranger Contracting, so they've got some activities going on out there. Phase 1, which we submitted about 2 years ago, was a 13-lot subdivision approved in April of 2023. There was one lot on the property to set up for 9 duplexes, rental units. There was a large lot for open space, recreation area around the old reservoir. There was a small lot. One lot was for light commercial use, like a professional office or something of that nature. And then the remaining, remaining 10 lots were single-family residential. There was a 16.7-acre lot retained by DW LLC for Ranger Contracting to have, essentially their long-term goal is to move their construction business out there. They do have some stockpiles of aggregate out there now that they use for some of their, especially for winter time. That gives them a shorter run, so they don't have to go all the way up to Norridgewock. Last May, we revised the plan to add 3 more lots off the east end of Reservoir Lane and extended Reservoir Lane a little bit to accommodate that. The project is large enough that it triggered DEP's Site Location of Development Act permit. So we've already received that permit for both phases 1 and 2, so that's already been accomplished. And that permit is valid for 7 years, so we've still got about 5 years left on that permit. As part of that permit, a big part of that permit is stormwater management, treatment, and so forth. So we've got some wet ponds, we've got a couple of detention ponds, we've got some forested buffers and so forth to accommodate that. We did request, as part of Phase 1, we did request 2 waivers. One of them is your ordinance requires, if there are more than 200 vehicles coming in and out of a development, you require 2 means of access. And because we're on 104, DOT did not want to give us a second means of entrance, so we worked with you folks to come up with a solution. And that solution was that the main entrance would be divided, essentially 22 feet on each side of it, and then we would have a loop coming through the construction yard, so that the hope is that we don't have any spot there where if there's an accident or something, we can still get vehicles in and out of the site. So that was an accommodation that folks made for us there. And then the other accommodation or the waiver was sidewalks were not required on the development. As far as roads go, the intent is to construct 2 town specs and turn it over Reservoir Lane and Easy Street to the town. And then there will be 2 private roads that will be retained, Gravel Street and Imagination Lane. For fire protection, they've got a dry hydrant, or will have a dry hydrant, it's not there yet, in a wet pond that they'll be constructing on the Rangers construction site. And then the fire chief required sprinklers in all the homes and duplexes, anything that's going to be a sleeping unit. So Phase 2 is much smaller than Phase 1. It's essentially adding 11 single-family residential lots, total area a little over 26 acres. Lot size, 80,000 square feet, minimum frontage 200 feet, private wells, private septic systems. And that's my spiel, and welcome any questions or comments.
Any questions or comments from our board on this Phase 2?
Just real quickly, the plans that you have in front of you, the first one is just Phase 1, so just in case you want to reference that or see any of the notes that are related to that, and then the second sheet is Phase 2.
Randy, a couple questions for you.
Sure.
Can you explain to us, based upon the map of the Phase 2 project, where the public roads end?
Where the public way would end?
Yes.
Okay, on Reservoir Lane, it will be out at the very end of it, and there'll be a turnaround there. So on the far east side of Reservoir Lane, there'll be a turnaround, and we'll have to do something to give the town an easement to get onto that land to be retained.
Right, because that was my question around, it looks as though, based upon the red outlines of parcels, that the public road is getting extended more than what Phase 1 had.
Correct, correct.
And the T turnaround at the end of Phase 1 Reservoir Lane is getting removed. There's no,
It's part of
there was a T turnaround at the end of Reservoir Lane in Phase 1 at the location of lots 17 and 18.
Correct.
Is that, or I guess just lot 17 probably, is that T turnaround no longer going to be
Correct. That'll be-
installed?
Correct. That'll
And
be-
is the public road outline that was approved as part of Phase 1 is getting reconfigured?
Correct. Well, yeah, just that turnaround will
Right,
be
that-
incorporated into Lot 17.
Yep. And the public road will end prior to the T turnaround, but there's going to be an easement provided to the town to provide access to that T turnaround?
Yes, and we can work with you to figure out the best way to do that. There wasn't really a good place to put that turnaround back within the lots, so we've pushed it out there, and there is, we don't have anything defined out there on that large lot, but there's potential to eventually loop that around, is the long-term goal, but we don't have that exactly ironed out what we're going to do there.
I think it would be beneficial to the town to have the T turnarounds incorporated into the public roads, whether the public road extends out into that
Yeah, that-
proposed retained land.
Sure.
I think that's just cleaner than an easement.
Yep, that's fine.
And then it allows Public Works to make sure that those T turnarounds are plowed sufficiently for emergency vehicles.
Yep, that's fine. That won't be a problem.
And then you had mentioned that there'd be a wet hydrant in here associated with a detention pond. Which detention pond is that?
It'll be the very first one as you come off from Route 104, the one that's just as you come in on the Reservoir Lane on the right-hand side.
So adjacent.
That little outline that you see in blue is it's a proposed wet pond.
Okay, and is that going to be a surface water wet pond or a below-grade cistern tank?
It'll be surface water, yeah.
Okay.
And it's kind of hard to tell on this layout here, but we do actually have like an 8-foot lane turnout for fire trucks to pull off the road to fill up there. So the dry hydrant will be right out at the shoulder of the road.
Okay.
And we've got that detailed on other sheets on the plan that we did for the construction site, so we can get that info to you if you like.
Okay. At the end of Reservoir Lane, it looks like there's a wetland that's being crossed. It shows 2,930 square feet of wetland impact, and it looks like maybe designating that there's a bridge or something that's going to happen there.
Just the culvert.
A culvert,
Yep, yes,
okay.
a culvert. I'd have to look it up. I think that was a 3-foot culvert, if I recall.
Okay.
Yes.
And that would be within the public road, and that would be turned over to the
Correct.
town as part of the public roadway?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from our board on this application?
I will say, I have some concerns about, and maybe not be our purview, but about the town taking on more roadways to maintain. I do agree with Max that, we need to, it would be easier without an easement to have that be inside of Phase 2.
Will you please talk up to the...
Oh, sorry, I forget that every time. I do have some concerns about the town having more roadways to maintain, especially with a 3-foot culvert there, but I do like the way it's laid out. I agree with Max that I think the turnaround should be incorporated into it. I think that would be easier without the easement. It's just my 2 cents.
Anything else on this application? Nicole, do we take a vote on this one at this point?
No, it's just sketch plan.
Sketch
He's
plan?
taking feedback so that he can bring you a formal application at a later date. Right now, you're still have an active Phase 1. You have an active bond on Phase 1.
Okay,
He's just getting your input for his formal application.
okay. Go ahead.
I had one more. Randy, could you just, I mean, you, as part of Phase 1, there was the open space recreation area that was included, and I think that's great for this potential community that will be built here. How will that be accessed?
Yeah, there'll be a small parking area. Let me see it. I don't know that it shows, trying to see if it actually has any reference to it on this plan. We don't show it. If you look at Phase 1, or either one of them, actually, either one of the plans, you'll see Lot 11 from what's called Gravel Street.
Yep.
Just to the east or southeast of that, it will be a parking area that we've got defined on a plan.
Okay, so the Gravel Street private
Yes.
will be privately owned, but public access.
Correct. Public access for the lot owners. The intent is not to open up to the general public, but
Okay.
access deeds
Okay.
allowance for all the lot owners here and tenants of the duplexes.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think we had 7 or 8 parking spots there, something on that magnitude.
I was thinking it might be nice to have like an easement down the edge of Lot 18 between the land retained by DW LLC and 18 to allow access in if there wasn't good access from Gravel Street. But
No, Gravel Street provides pretty decent access, and that's actually where, if you look carefully, I think especially on the second one, the Phase 2 plan, you'll see the actual trail that goes down to the pond is right there, accessible, so that's the intent.
Yep, and I see on the Phase 2 plan where you have set out where the parking area is, so.
Okay, right, yes,
Yep.
yep, it is there, yep.
Very good, thank you, Randy.
Okay.
Next item, don't move. Randy Butler, P.E. Derigo Engineering, representative for Bryant Lorette Long Acres Estates on a pre-application sketch plan discussion on a proposed 28 dwelling lot subdivision zones rural residential on 70 acres.
Okay, so this one is out in near Fairfield Center. It's at the, has the family farm traditionally been Larrabee's there in that area? Larrabee and Wood, okay. So the land is currently owned by Anthony and Larissa Larrabee. The potential owner is Bryant Lorette, who is with us tonight, doing business as Long Acre Estates. So the plan is, if this continues to move forward, obviously he'd have to get a purchase and sale agreement or some other formality for the next meeting. So essentially proposing a single-family residential subdivision. This area is, again, rural residential, so it's 80,000 square foot lots, 200 foot of frontage, which is what we've provided for. Also planning on 3 additional lots kind of up on the northwest side of the page there. That would be for his children, and that access would come off, there's a like a, I guess, a gravel road or a farm road that wraps around there right now that kind of heads out to the west, and that's where that right-of-way would be connected, so they wouldn't be directly connected to the subdivision. Owner at this point intends to build spec houses, starting out at perhaps 1 or 2 homes per year. So the intent is to do this in phases to make it affordable. So that might stretch over 5, 6, 7, 8 years thereabouts, depending on how business goes and so forth. Private water and sewer. We do understand this is in kind of the PFAS central out in that neighborhood, so we'll have to take some measures to do some test wells and see just exactly what we're up against out there. Very well prepared to provide filters if necessary. The site is adjacent to Fisher Brook, so some of those lots will have shoreline zoning, resource protection district. A couple of the lots, I think that we'll have to revise. Nicole pointed out that we kind of have them too long. There's a 5-to-1 ratio, I think, if I remember right. The lots 12 and 13, I think you've got the same plan that I do. Currently, I have those shown longer than what your ordinance allows, so I'll modify that to get those into compliance. Fire protection, we haven't had any communication with the fire chief yet, but we kind of anticipate it'll be similar to Reservoir Hill out there. He required sprinklers in the homes. I don't think we have public water very close to that area, so no hydrants. And one of the things that we'll have to look into, if we should exceed 20 lots, then that's going to put us up over that 200, or around that 200 threshold. Essentially, if you look at the highway manuals, what they say is slightly under 10 trips per lot, so 9.5 or something of that magnitude. So once we get much over 20 lots, 21 lots, that's going to kick us over that 200 trips per day threshold. So we'll have to consider, how do we provide a second means of entrance here, if that's something that you're anxious to have. One of the options that we've considered is down at the down off the south side of Lot 1. There is a field entrance there currently. In fact, we had initially hoped that we could come in off from that point to access the entire lot. But in talking with DOT, they've got certain setbacks that you need. I think it was 350-foot requirement for spacing between driveways. So that kind of limited on that as far as using that as a prime entrance. But we are, I guess, interested in looking into that, see if it might be able to function as an emergency exit type of scenario. So that's something we've got to address and deal with. The other waiver that we'd like to submit for would be to have no sidewalks on the site. I welcome any questions.
Questions or comments from our board on this application?
The 3 lots that are being proposed for family.
Yep.
With access from Norwich Walk Road.
Yep.
Are those existing lots?
No, they're
Or those
not.
would be lots broken up as part of this subdivision?
We've got to look into the legalities of that. It might be, this is probably going to be phased. This is probably the 5 or 6 year plan. So I think probably next time we come back, you're going to see a much scaled down version. The intent is to try to be able to get something started this summer, which means, okay, we're going to scale this down to something that might be 8 or 10 lots or something of that magnitude. I don't think the lots that are intended for family, those are a ways out. I assume that those aren't something that is for his children, essentially. So there'll be a few years before they're ready for those, so it won't necessarily be on the first phase that we present, but we did want you to be aware of it.
Okay, because I would think that those would be part of the subdivision if they're getting split, but.
Yeah, I've got to check in with a surveyor, and in fact, a final plan would be coming from a surveyor. So there's differences as to whether or not when you sell to family or give to family members, there's differences on how that's managed. But we'll make sure we address that in the proper fashion.
And then, what was the decision around private wells as opposed to public water?
Is there public water out there?
It's pretty close.
Is it? How far away is it?
It's right at the emergency access road.
Is it really? Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't understand that.
So
I
maybe
wasn't,
something to consider.
Even though Dirigo Engineering did the whole study for the extension, I was not much involved in that. I didn't realize they had it so close. So
Yeah.
So okay, we'll look into that. See if that might be
I think that could potentially be
that might solve the problem.
a selling point for potential home buyers.
Right. Yes. Do you know if there's a hydrant right handy there?
I believe there's one right there.
Really? Okay.
If not, then it's a blow off. I know there's something right there at the dead end.
Okay. Thank you.
Those family lots may be exempt as well under some of the subdivision regulations.
Right,
to
yeah,
blood
that's,
relatives.
right, that's what we'll look into. As I say, this will eventually be developed by a land surveyor, and they have all those rules down pat, so we'll,
Good. It's good that you're showing it on the master plan
yeah,
now,
just,
but
right,
those blood relative transfers are exempt. Any other questions or comments on this application?
I mean, the property lines, I'm having a hard time following. Is it all one parcel? It's two parcels right now?
Yeah, it's currently 2 parcels. You'll see kind of going through Lot 7 is a red line.
Yep.
So that's the division between, to the north is one lot, to the south is another lot.
Okay.
So as it's essentially it'll be combined into one.
And the solar array is also dignified by property line, like the property line symbology?
Yes, correct.
Is that the one that's sort
Yes.
of diagonal and
Yeah, where it
jumps
says-
out around the barns and stuff?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So just a question. There appears to be a road going to Fishbrook, straight shot with a T turnaround, but
Yes.
that cannot extend into that 250-foot resource protection district setback.
The road can't, even if, the intent is not to build the road all the way down through there. Yeah, I can modify that line so that,
It stays out of resource protection, because that's a no cut, no build zone. They can timber harvest only like 40%. and-
oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay,
very
I guess I thought that
That's the
they,
most restrictive shoreland zone you have. Yeah.
okay.
And is Lot 18 buildable, given that it looks,
Well, I guess I thought resource protection gave you some allowance for home, like a 1,500 square feet or something of that magnitude. I know there's restrictions within the shoreland zone, you can't develop more than 20%. I'll look into that. I maybe, yeah, I'll check into that and see what the restrictions are.
Anything else on this application? Hearing nothing, we'll move on to item C. Randy Butler, Derigo Engineering, representative for New England Rent to Own on a pre-application sketch plan discussion for a mobile home park subdivision at the end of Hooper Lane, tax map 5, lot 54A3-A, zoned rural residential on 10 acres. Discussion.
Okay, this proposed project just came onto our desk last week, so I just kind of threw something together just to have a discussion on. I did go out to the site after I submitted this to check on wetlands, and there are some wetlands down in the area of the pond that will probably end up eliminating 1 or 2 lots, I'm guessing. We haven't had it formally delineated yet, but I do know there are some there that we had not shown yet. So there is a stream coming out of that pond, and I do show 75-foot setbacks from that stream, so that's pretty much, the wetlands are mostly within that stream, but there's some off to the left there around lot 13 as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if we lose a couple of lots because of that. So this whole lot essentially is kind of a big L-shaped lot, or shaped like a big J, if you will, coming off from Davis Road, Hooper Lane. The first few hundred feet is across an easement, as you can see off to the left there, coming off Davis Road. You'll notice the E/L line. That simply means easement limit, so 60-foot easement coming off from there. And then a good 2/3 of the road is owned by the developer, New England Rent to Own. Don't be misled by the name of the company. They've been in business for a number of years. That's the name of the company. That's not necessarily the model that they'll use here, as far as they'll be doing it in a traditional mobile home fashion, where typically the developer owns the lots, the tenant owns the homes and leases the space, is pretty much the plan here. We will have to go with, the goal is to go with centralized subsurface wastewater treatment systems here. You don't have the town does not have a mobile home ordinance per se. So what Nicole instructed me on is essentially use the state's model, and that requires a 12,000 square foot lot, which is a pretty healthy lot for a mobile home site. A lot of, like Waterville, for example, is 5,000 square feet. So these are fairly spacious. And another requirement, the state doesn't require it, but the manufactured housing rules require that if you're at a subsurface wastewater system, your lots don't necessarily need to be 20,000 square feet, but you've got to have enough aggregate throughout your entire park to accommodate 20,000 square feet. And we do have that here with what we've got. Again, I've got to back up and check the wetlands. Again, if it doesn't work out right, we could end up losing a couple of lots due to that. So that's the intent. Generally, the flow or the lay of the land, it's from Lot 1, which is up there on the left. That's pretty flat up in that area. And then as you get down to lots 3, 4, 5, it kind of pitches to the southeast, generally speaking, toward the pond at about maybe a 4 or 5% slope. So it's a pretty good site for development of this nature.
Congregate septics, private wells as well?
Yes, correct. Well, actually, sorry, on this one, it would be probably a community well would be the plan here.
Okay.
And that would have to be anything over 10 lots would have to go through DHS.
Okay. Anything from our board on this item?
It looks like on the property there is, I guess, maybe an existing home.
Yes, that's my home.
Yeah, that's a separate piece of property. Yes.
Oh, that is a separate piece of
Yeah, that's a mobile
property?
home there, yeah. So this, essentially, this 10-acre piece is, you've kind of got that square down to the right, and then just that, 100-foot wide strip going up towards Davis Road. That's the piece that the mobile home park is on, and then this other property is owned by Mr. Salter, is that correct? Yes.
Does Mr. Salters, that property, as well as, it looks like maybe there's a house to the north of the roadway as well?
That's me, probably.
Back closer to Davis Road, you're talking about?
Closer to Davis Road,
Yes,
yep.
yes, there are. Yeah, there's, as you come in off from Davis Road, there are, I guess it's 3 homes, and I might be wrong. I'm not sure if there's one on the left. Yeah. Okay.
Do those 3 properties have easement access through this property that's proposed for development?
They do, at least to a section of the road. I haven't read their deeds, but they've got access to the road, yes.
Because I'd want to make sure before we further complicate this area.
But as far as maintenance, there's no maintenance done by the town, there's no plowing, there's none of that. We have to do that ourselves. And
Hooper Lane's
that's the question that we have for you, with
Sure.
What's that?
all these things coming in.
Hooper Lane is private, Nicole?
It is private, yes.
Yes.
Right now,
Owned
there
by
are
the 3
3.
homes, so I don't understand
Yeah,
how
that-
that,
it's-
suddenly it's, all of that is not.
Well,
There's going to be an issue with them getting this place cleaned up in the summer, the maintenance. There's going to be heavy traffic on that
We need them to
It's
do
not
the
much of a
microphone.
road. There's going to be a lot of.
Okay, hold up a second here. We are at sketch plan review, and what that means, guys, is that we, as a board, this is the first time we've seen it. Randy just got it as well. There will be a public hearing where we can have input and put that into the ordinance to see if there's a...
So he knows.
Okay. I'll tell you what, we'll let, some of you people are here for this item, we'll let you speak briefly, but this is not a public hearing, but you're here, I don't want to waste your time. So if you would, step up to the microphone and make comments so that at least the designers can get some input from you.
Okay, I own the house on the, as you're turning into Hooper Lane, the first house on the right.
Gotcha?
It's 5.5 acres.
Yep.
Okay, and when I first purchased this, there was no, you did your own. The town refused to plow. They refused to do any maintenance. And when I asked why, I was given a big old book on what I had to do. $1 million or $2 million or so dollars of preparing the road, and then they take it over, whatever. Anyway, the question that I have is, if this happens, okay, is the town gonna basically plow these people out? Are they gonna repair the roads? Because that's all done by me.
My understanding is, Randy, this is under the private road ordinance for this road, so the town is not being asked to have this built to town standards, inspect it to town standards, and maintaining it. We're being asked, I believe, at sketch plan review here tonight, that this is under the private road ordinance. So, under private road ordinance, the developer who is developing in here would own the maintenance and repair and upkeep of that road under the
Okay.
private road ordinance.
Okay, that's one answer. Another thing, this, that you can probably answer maybe, the mobile home, it's going to be lots, and somebody's going to be bringing in their mobile home to plant it on there?
Correct.
Is there going to be an age limit to these mobile homes? Because a lot of these mobile homes come in raggedy, and they stay there for, 10, 15, 20 years.
the answer to that, but I'll get the answer.
And are there going to be any kind of regulations, supervisory supervisions in place for people to follow in this mobile home park, as far as maintenance, as far as conduct, as far as ATVs all over the damn place, basically, I guess what I'm concerned with is having this whole place turn into a ghetto,
Okay.
which normally happens. And as far as some kind of a supervisory rules, regulations and whatnot, because you're piling in a bunch of people in a little area is what you're doing. And it's not, I'm not too crazy about it, but I guess I can't stop it. But another question that I have is the wetland issue, okay? Because the owner, or the prior owner, basically said that that area was too wet to do anything, okay? And so that's why he sold the other piece to Mr. Salter here, okay? And then he asked me if I'd be interested in it, because he was talking about putting in a mobile home park or storage units in the place. And he was told by the town, he says, that he couldn't do any of that because everything was too wet. Okay, and so he asked me if I'd be interested. I made him an offer, and I gave him probably not what he wanted, but considering that it was wet, that's what he told me, it was wet, and that I would have just left it undeveloped so we'd have a little bit of privacy. Okay, so now all of a sudden we get this boondoggle of a thing here, and so is he lying that it's? Did he sell it to? Did he sell you a whole bunch of wetland, or somebody's not being upfront?
Excuse me, sir. Your questions are great. This gives great insight to Randy and the designers. But a lot of your questions will be taken up at a public hearing. And as far as the wetlands questions, which are good questions, Randy has to do wetlands delineation. As far as the rules and regulations of a private road, Manufactured Housing Association regulates these guys, inspects them, issues annual licenses. So the park rules generally come through with, no ATVs, no snowmobiles, all those kind of things. And that's up to the park owner to put those rules in place and regulate them. So there's a lot of regulations from the state Manufactured Housing Association on that, and as well as condition of homes and that type thing. It's always a concern. Again, Manufactured Housing Board inspects and regulates that. It cannot be used older homes that don't meet the ordinance. It cannot be junkyards. It has to be a clean, neat appearance. So a lot of that is going to be regulated. And again, you're here tonight. We'll let you speak very briefly about this issue so we can move on. But there will be a public hearing long before this design is completed. And obviously, he's going to delineate wetlands. Is there someone else that wants to make brief comments tonight? Go ahead, please.
Yes.
Up to the mic.
And actually, I have a question, because just so you know, I've never been to any meeting like this before. So what is appropriate to be asking or?
No, all of your concerns, all your questions, those are all appropriate. Don't feel
Okay.
like you're out of place here asking these questions. Everybody here lives in this town.
Yeah.
We respect our privacy. So, you live nearby, you have valid questions.
Yeah, I'm going to be the one most significantly impacted.
Okay.
Because basically this is right abutting my property.
Okay.
Thankfully Randy was out recently. I just happened to meet him because I was home, which is the only way I even found out this property was sold, the only way I even found out that there was going to be a development put on it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Nicole, but these guys will get registered letters inviting them to a public hearing.
Right, they'll
If-
get a U.S. mailed letter.
If this progresses, you will be getting a written invitation.
Okay, good.
Okay, to ask those questions.
Yeah.
And again, we're looking at a sketch plan preliminary design. So some
So I
of this,
guess really my question should be directed more toward Randy for him to pass on to the owner of this property. Is that? So
Well-
my concerns are a couple things. One, I am kind of disappointed having just purchased property there, and one of the reasons I purchased property is, as my neighbor here had alluded to, the seller of the property had informed me he had tried to put in a mobile home park there, was told specifically, this is what I would, whether it's true or not, but I was told specifically the town said, no, it cannot, one cannot go in there, there's too much wetland. So I purchased my property based on that. I didn't want
okay.
to live. But aside from that, some of my concerns would be, one, just so you know, it looks like your right-of-way is already coming into my property based on your lines and where trees are. So that would be a concern for me. The concern is, well, everything. It's a small road already with, I go in the furthest, just with 3 homes, it's a dirt road.
Okay.
It suffers a lot.
And keep in mind that what is there today cannot exist for this program.
Yeah.
They have to improve this road. They have to take 90-foot trailers down that road.
I'm sorry.
They have to take 90-foot trailers down that
Yeah.
road. So it's going to be wider, it's going to be gravelled, it's going to be ditched, it's going to be culverted. So that's required by the town ordinance. So don't look at that road today and say, oh my God, you can't put
Does that
trailers down
road
there.
end up going into my property
They
because
do,
of someone else is developing their property?
no, they have no right to come on your property unless they have an easement or they buy it from you.
Okay.
Okay, so, I mean, that's
And
how
what
it
is
is.
standard for, so my property is right there. There are several homes that, there's a road that separates, based on this plan, a large number of them, but there's 2 that back right up to my property. Is the intent of the owner, the developer, to put up fences so people don't suddenly think my whole yard is their yard and their property?
I haven't had that discussion with him. so
Okay,
I can-
that would be something, and then also just the impact of you drawing water out, drilling, taking water out for 10 homes. Is there going to be any study on how large the water table is there? Because as it is already, my well is well over 300 feet deep. And potentially, if they've got to go to the same, thing, I could run out of water now because of 10 new homes coming in.
Well, your neighbor will be good.
Yeah, because you guys are at 160 or so.
Okay, and again, all of these concerns are valid. Absolutely, wait for your invitation, public hearing. They have to do a hydro study. If they're putting in that many wells,
He said not that many. He said one big well to serve all of them.
Correct. But if it wasn't feasible for them to find water for this project, then they'll know it right off. I mean, they have to do a hydro study. They go to the local well driller, and I'm sure a lot of research has to be done prior to this project kicking off. And again, at sketch plan review, This is just a sketch.
Okay.
They're not doing it yet.
Yep.
The surveyors, the gravel trucks aren't coming. This is sketch plan review. We go to another meeting where there's a public hearing.
Okay.
That absolutely voice your concerns. We don't do anything that upsets the ordinance or, the rights of landowners.
Yeah.
We don't have rights to do that, so.
And does the town, or who regulates, obviously now, if this goes forward, there's going to need to be a lot of construction, lots of vehicles and trucks coming in and out. Does the town limit the hours that this can be done? So that, especially, again, I'm the
Okay.
one most impacted because it's...
Okay, and within our ordinance, again, there are hours of operations.
Okay.
Posted in the ordinance. It's from certain time in the morning till night. They've got to build roads and gravel roads and build in there, so they will be doing, some amount of work. But
Oh,
again,
yeah, I figured that.
a sketch plan review, they don't have a permit. This is state-regulated manufactured housing, Affordable Housing Act. So there's a lot of hoops for them to jump through first before this even happens. So again,
Okay.
stay involved, ask questions, come to the public hearing, and let's make sure all of your questions and concerns are answered.
Terrific.
Okay? Thank you.
We'll share a couple with you after, just to bring up to your... Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Next item.
Hold on, just one more.
Okay, go.
So Randy, I think something I'd be certainly looking for is a better understanding if those existing homes have an easement right to Hooper Lane, and
Okay.
just to make sure that that is handled if this development moves forward, to not further compound an issue.
Yeah, my understanding is that they do, but I'll confirm that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else on this New England rent-to-own? Thank you, Randy.
And just so you know, schedule-wise, we're going to have to wait till springtime to delineate those wetlands, so we won't be back until after that point.
Okay.
So, all right,
Good.
thank you.
Thank you. Next item, item D, Jeff Allen, P.E., A.E. Hodgson Engineers, representative for Fairfield Apartments for Kennebec Valley Community Action Program, major subdivision application at 63 High Street for a proposed 27 dwelling unit subdivision within 2 buildings identified on tax map 25, lot 29, on 1.42 acres, zoned urban residential. Discussion and decision. And before we open this up for discussion, I'm going to read the letters that we have from Public Works, is our first letter. And I need that letter, Nicole, from Police Chief as well.
Oh,
I believe it's in the, I'll get it, Nicole.
Okay.
You have it?
It's in the book.
Anyway, first letter. Dear Planning Board, from Public Works Department, regarding the proposed building project on 63 High Street, I feel it's in the best interest of the builder and the town to create a new sewer service for both properties and connect to the sewer manhole located at the intersection of High Street and Elm Street. The current service for the old school on High Street has been repaired in the past and is believed to be in poor condition. The building on Preble Street has an existing service line that connects to Preble Street. The sewer main on Preble Street will not support added flow of the proposed new structure. In addition, it's my recommendation of the new sewer service, I would like to see a drainage plan for the parking area as well. That is from Public Works. Who's got the... Okay, Town of Fairfield.
That's the fire.
That's the fire.
This is police.
Police. Thank you. Fairfield Police Department, to the Fairfield Planning Board. I've reviewed the application entitled Major Subdivision Review, application for Fairfield's Apartments for KV CAP. project number 4425, as submitted by A.E. Hodgson Engineers. My only concern is the limited parking available to the occupants that will reside on this property. Although there is adequate parking available on Preble Street and High Street, those spots are not available overnight from November 1 to March 31 of each year. I'm concerned that on-site parking may not be adequate during those months. It appears that there is one spot per unit, with an additional 4 spots that would be handicap accessible. Having one parking location for each apartment concerns me, knowing that some of the tenants could own more than one vehicle. Aside from those issues as mentioned, I do not have any objections to this proposal. Respectfully, Thomas E. Gould, Police Chief. So those are the 2 letters from Public Works and the Police Department. And question or comments on this application and parking?
What has the consideration for stormwater been that would be developed on this site, since there's certainly an addition of impervious area from what's existing?
Right. I think the gentleman that is our neighbor to the south, Mr. Munson, I'm sorry, is here, and he was concerned about water running off of the parking lot, which is now a playground with mulch on it, and into his property. What we've done is, as you see, there's a sidewalk along the south side of that parking lot. To get up to the sidewalk will be a 6-inch curb. So what our intent is the water will follow that 6-inch curb along the south side of the parking lot and dump out into the road. The nearest catch basin on High Street is down at the next intersection, and I note that it's curbed all the way down. In Mr. Munson's driveway, I'm not sure how the water goes by that now, but if it does not go by there, we could put in a small, essentially a speed bump that would keep the water in the road and keep it going by, go down to the catch basin at, I think it's Lawrence Avenue.
Kelly Street.
I'm sorry?
Kelly Street.
Kelly Street, thank you. My plan doesn't go quite far enough.
No.
Could a catch basin be installed at the entrance to High Street with a new storm drain running down to that catch basin at the corner of Kelly Street? I'm just concerned that that's a lot of impervious area to be dumping into a town road.
Well, actually, we're reducing the impervious area some up in front of the school building because we're have reduced the amount of parking spaces there. Right now, we've got double-decker parking going right from the road all the way to the face of the building. So we're putting in some new grass there, which will reduce the impervious area some. There is an increase, so if it were necessary, we could put in a catch basin there and go down the right-of-way, but that would be quite expensive to do, and I don't know if there is a need for it. The increase in flow here from this 24-space parking lot is going to take a while to go along the curb, but that appears to be what has been done in the past for some time. So that's ultimately your decision, but I believe it's adequate without it. And of course, around the existing school building, the water's going to keep going off as it is anyway. Like, you know, there's no change around there, except in the area behind the school, going on the west side of the school, there's a gravel driveway that goes in there, and we're proposing to replace that with lawn. So that would be some decreased impervious area there. Of course, that area goes over to a catch basin, which is on the corner of Preble and Elm Street. So that would drain out toward Elm and would be decreasing the flow there. The other thing that we're looking at doing with stormwater is in the new building that we're putting in, the lower building that fronts on Preble. We could put gutters along the south and west side of that, and then pipe that directly into the catch basin that's in front of Ms. Ross's property. There's an existing catch basin there.
I think I'm very concerned about the amount of stormwater that's going to be dumped into High Street. I understand that up at the existing parking area, some pavement's going to be reduced, but we're adding a lot of pavement where the existing playground is. And to assume, with really just assumptions, that water won't get into the traveled portion of High Street, I think is risky. And even if it doesn't, there's going to be a lot of ice buildup right there potentially for people coming in and out of this parking lot. So I think it's a sound development move to install a catch basin at the entrance to that new parking area and then run a new storm drain down to that existing storm drain infrastructure. I think it just eliminates risk as opposed to crossing our fingers and waiting for an accident before the town has to shoulder that cost of installing a catch basin there.
What is the run to Kelly Street? Do you know?
It's a couple hundred feet.
Yes, go ahead.
I apologize for intruding.
No problem.
I'm near butter.
Could you come to the microphone?
Tom, come up.
I'm near butter. In the area of my driveway, going across High Street, they have run water lines, which is to say that the pavement is depressed in those areas, and in heavy rain, water collects in those areas. Just mentioning that if you put more water coming down there, the idea that that will become a semi-pond until the water dries up is a problem, that you may want to raise the pavement where the water line goes through there if you're going to be running more water down there. Just a comment.
Good, thank you, Tom. Okay, so we have drainage questions on the table, and we still have some parking issues. And there's no way to know if these tenants, especially in the new building, what if they have 2 cars per dwelling?
Actually, it is addressed in the ordinance. Because this is a low-income housing, you only need 2 spaces for 3 units.
Is that 2003?
Yes. LD 2000.
Yeah, LD 2003,
Okay, good.
yes.
Okay.
And so that would only require 18 spaces. The new parking lot that we're proposing here is 24, and then we're cutting the number of parking spaces in front of the existing school from 20 down to 10.
Correct.
So, we have more, I appreciate the police chief's comments, but the ordinance allows for much less due to the type of housing being developed. And so, we're trying to put in as many as we can because I think he has a very valid concern. But this is a little bit more than what we have, or what we're proposing is a little more than 1 per unit. And I know last time when I was here, we spoke about the parking spaces in front of the school and the concern about backing out into the street. That is not a comment that the police chief made, so I don't believe that he has had any particular concern about that. This is just the way it's been for so long. So again, we would like to keep those there if we could, just because that does provide valuable parking. And if we're not allowed to do that, then we would start peeling them off as we come down closer to Elm Street. Take the ones on Elm Street out first, because those ones would be closest to the intersection. And I think Mr. Kenny mentioned last time, the biggest concern is somebody turning right from Elm Street coming down onto High Street. That would be the move that would be most dangerous, because they'd be, could run into the back of a car backing out who, would look, and then, the new car would be there before they were aware of it. So
My thought is that, adequate parking is real important, and if you don't get it right now, it ends up being a policing problem for the town later. So, I would rather see people backing out onto High Street and have double stack parking there, so that visitors could park behind someone they're visiting and that type thing. So you could pick up quite a few spaces there. And another consideration would be lease restrictions, parking pass requirements, lease requirements that, they can't have, 3 registered vehicles per household, some kind of lease restriction that shifts the enforcement off the town of Fairfield Police Department and onto the management of this facility. You're putting 27 homes in this facility, and that's a lot of people, that's a lot of bodies. Now, it's much needed, okay, because if we don't want these people living on the banks of the Kennebec River, show them some affordable housing. So it is much needed, there's no question there. But we would be a little bit relaxed if we were to ignore the police concerns and other concerns about parking here. So there's got to be a combination of things that allows you to do what you're asking to do, but shifts a little bit of the burden off the police department. We don't want them up there writing tickets every night. We don't want them having vehicles in the way when they're trying to plow. And again, lease requirements. If you're leasing a 3-bedroom, the lease could say, can't have 5 vehicles, can't have 4, can only have 2, or something.
2 vehicles per unit max.
And parking passes maybe, so that these guys aren't fighting over parking over there. So I think a consolidated parking plan, which doesn't create problems for the town of Fairfield, would be really cool. And I'm surprised that nobody's here from the town. I'm surprised that nobody is voicing this opinion. I'm sure they will when they can't park, when they can't get in their driveway, or there's parking on the streets at night.
We could retain the existing double parking if you need, because that way, if in the old school building, for example, there are going to be 12 units. So these 12 spaces, right, or 10 spaces right in front of there could be, if we were to double stack them, that would allow 1 row for each unit, essentially, almost.
Correct.
And some of the units being that are proposed in the existing building are single-family or single-bedroom ones.
Right.
So they would probably maybe only have 1 car. And they could park in the common lot to the south. If, replacing this to double units would be, or retaining the double parking with 1 row for each unit certainly would be doable.
Again, we're balancing water, drainage, impervious layers, and parking that we know may be a problem in the future. So it's an important decision. And again, my personal opinion, double stack that all day long. It's existing pervious, it's existing pavement, it's existing gravel, and, husband and wife both work, 2 vehicles. Boy, I'll get home first, honey, and you park in front of me or behind me or whatever. So that's just my opinion on parking. And once you do this, you cannot undo this if there's a parking problem. Same thing with drainage. Once you do this, it's difficult to undo this if there's a drainage issue. So we have to get it right, even though there's not a lot of public opinion here tonight about these issues. And we want it to be a well-thought-out plan for what's best for, our affordable housing community, but also for, the town of Fairfield, our police chief, our public works. It's got to be a well-thought-out plan. This is a huge change to this community. This is a change that's 100 years old. So that we're going to see dramatic differences But it's kind of cool that there's a park right there for the kids, and it's cool that they are walking distance to downtown and to support local businesses. So there's a lot of positives here, and I think we need to work through drainage and parking a little bit.
Yeah. I would be happy to retain the double stacking because that does address that concern directly with no additional cost to the applicant.
We like to solve problems at no additional cost, okay?
And speaking of the applicant, this is Dave Pelton from KV Cap, who is the person or the entity buying the property. So he's very concerned about this and, wanted to be here. So did you want to speak at all?
Yes, thank you, and thanks for considering this. David Pelton, I'm the Director of Real Estate Development for KV Cap. Of course, we want to, build something that's good for everybody in the town, and this is not our first project in Fairfield. We did the Gerald Hotel a few years back. That seems to be working out pretty well. I guess the question I would have back is if we're trying to get this application in for a grant for Maine Housing. There's a bit of a deadline on that. Are these? I think the water runoff sounds like it's fixable with a new catch basin. I think if we're going to put in a catch basin, then there's really no other than leaving those extra parking spots, those double stacked parking spots, is more doable. Because part of the reason to take that out was to help the water flow. So, so I guess the question is, can we? We would like to resolve this without much of a delay.
Okay.
Get it right without much of a delay.
Yeah, we can condition approval.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Well, and obviously, we know what's involved with financing and trying to acquire and trying to, I know. And the timeline on funding for, Maine Housing Authority, I understand that. And we could go through a finding of fact, we could do some conditional approvals based on some of the things. First of all, is there any other comments or questions from our board about this application other than this drainage and parking? Go.
The gutters along the backside of the new building in the tie into that existing catch basin on Preble Street, you have that shown on the plans. Nicole, Bruce didn't comment on that?
Because I believe they're tying underground, is that correct?
Yes, we
So it's not
tie in the
sheet flow?
downspout.
I just want to make sure that our Public Works was aware that that was on the plans and something that would be approved. Make sure, because I know there was concerns around Preble Street's sewer infrastructure not being able to handle additional flow.
Correct.
So I would be.
So they've sent it all to the front.
Right, yep. I just want to make sure that this stormwater infrastructure on Preble Street would be expected to take that additional capacity.
Yeah. If it were not able to go in underground, it would overflow and go on the ground like it would anyway. So by piping it in directly underground, it eliminates runoff on the surface most of the year, or other than large storm events. So that was the intent of plumbing it directly to the catch basin. But I understand your concern about...
But the stormwater infrastructure on Preble Street could be collapsing and not be able to take it.
Right.
So then we'd have to come up with a different solution, because ultimately the planning board wouldn't want this development to take place if it was going to add an overburden of water into Preble Street, and we'd have to come up with a solution for that.
I did provide this comment back to Bruce, Mr. Williams, and he hasn't responded back to this revised plan yet. So that's something that I would like to get some feedback from him.
Go ahead, Nicole.
If that structure on Preble Street isn't adequate, where you're going to do a new catch basin somewhere at the entrance of your new parking, could you just redirect those gutters to your new underground, to your new catch basin?
I'd prefer to run it along the curb in front of the parking lot, because putting pipe in the ground is expensive.
Okay.
You know, we can, but there's a big dollar number associated with that, whereas if we were to dump it along that curb, there would be less cost.
To expedite for your needs tonight, we could go through finding of fact and make a list of conditions of approval which need further investigation. Obviously, the sewer line in Preble Street needs to be looked at. Obviously, the capacity of the storm drain out back there needs to be looked at, and this isn't the time of year to do it probably. But at least if you had a list of conditions of approval, at least you can proceed with your financing, and that would give you some time to research these conditions. That lets us, not say no tonight, but say, well, if this is worked out and this is done and that's worked out and this is investigated and this is, then those could be the conditions of approval, which lets you go, but it also lets this board be comfortable that we're not fast-tracking this for financing reasons, but we're issuing conditions of approval that lets you go, but also means that we're picking up all the items that we need to be concerned about.
Sounds great. Yeah.
So if we, just looking at the parking lot, I don't disagree, you could probably run the water off on the curbing. It's just going to require, if you do that, to make sure that there's a maintenance plan for that parking lot, specifically in the winter, because you're going to have significant ice buildup running along that curbing.
Yeah.
Could be a safety hazard.
Yeah, that's something we can look at and develop some costs to put in at the catch basin, because we could bring that right around and put it in sort of where we're running the electrical line out there.
Okay.
I mean, that's not the end of the world to do that.
Okay.
I have answers to Mr. Williams' concern about the sewer that I've shown on the plan here as well.
I did see that it shows that the sewer from both buildings will be now tied into the manhole at the corner of Elm Street and High Street. Just to make sure that it's clear to the planning board, the applicant, that the sewer line is going to be private until it hits the manhole in the street.
Yes.
Okay. And if this parcel was to ever be split into two, it would have to come back in front of the planning board, and then we'd be looking at a situation where one property's sewer line dumps into another property's sewer line, and there'd have to be a ramification at that point. Not an issue now, but just something to consider and make sure that we have noted. Other than that, I'm okay with moving forward with conditions of approval, as that there would be stormwater infrastructure added on High Street to collect the water out of these parking lots without the need for it to run all the way down High Street to Kelly Street. And a condition of approval that the Town of Fairfield's Public Works Director specifically okays the addition of stormwater into the existing catch basin on Preble Street.
I do have a concern about, I've seen a lot of these projects go, we're going to be talking a lot of heavy equipment through here, a lot of trucks, and I just throw this out there, about a potential road bond for damage to the public way, given the amount of traffic through here. So I don't know if that's something we've done before, but it is a concern. We've got a pretty heavily traveled road. You're going to have trucks coming in off Western Ave. We could potentially see some road damage due to that. Projects of this size have that happen. So
Well, we're going to be tearing it up anyway if we put in a catch basin.
If you put a catch basin and it's coming up anyway,
Yeah.
I would like to see the road fixed appropriately after that with some sort of...
That's required by ordinance anyway.
Yep.
Anything to do with the highway department, they have to patch and repair to the standards under the inspection of highway department.
Yep.
So
We're used to that. That's
nothing new.
Yeah.
And Preble Street's such in fabulous shape. We don't
beautiful.
want that.
It's gorgeous.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
It's
That's
the
why I
prize.
don't want to do as much over there at all.
Well,
Yeah.
Preble Street is the pick of the litter of our roads. Okay, so we
built like the interstate.
we need to
You're right,
protect that at all cost, okay? So, All right, so can we proceed to finding of fact? Okay, and again, start listing your conditions of approvals, ladies and gentlemen, so that we can get this to some point. Notice of decision on subdivision plan, Town of Fairfield, Fairfield Apartment subdivision, 63 High Street, map 25, lot 29. Excuse me. Kennebec Valley Community Action Program, KVCAP. Fairfield Planning Board's acted on the subdivision application plan for subdivision at 63 High Street as follows. The property owner is MSAD 49, School Street, Fairfield, with a purchase and sale agreement issued to Kennebec Valley Community Action Program, who has demonstrated legal interest in the property by providing a copy of a warranty deed, Somerset County Registry Book of Deeds, Book 787, page 907, and the purchase and sale agreement dated 2/4/25. The applicant is Jeff Allen, P.E., A.E. Hodgson, representative for KV Cap. Location of the property is 63 High Street on tax map, assessors map 25, lot 29, and the land contains 1.42 acres. The property is not in shoreline zone, and the property is not in a flood hazard area. The applicant proposed to subdivide the existing school building into 12 dwelling units and construct a second building on the site that will contain 15 dwelling units for a total of 27 dwelling units with parking for 34 vehicles on the subject property. A completed subdivision application was submitted on February 20th, 2025. A public hearing was held on March 3rd, 2025. Letters were mailed to abutters on 2/21/25, and a public notice was placed in the Morning Sentinel newspaper February 23rd, 2025, and again on February 26, 2025. Water is to be supplied by Public Water, Kennebec Water District. Sewer is to be disposed of by Public Sewer, Kennebec Sanitary Sewer District, Town of Fairfield sewer lines. See letter from Public Works Director. The plan shows new sewer lines are directed to the corner of Elm and High Street. Stormwater drainage plan has been prepared by stormwater flow shown on the plan. Curbing has been added in the parking areas directing the flow of water to High Street and then to the corner storm drain. Conclusions. Notice to abutters was mailed on February 21, 2025, and a notice of the public hearing was published in the paper Sunday, February 23rd, 2025, and again on Wednesday, February 26, 2025. The Fairfield Apartment subdivision plan shows the proposed layout of the buildings, parking, and utilities. The subdivision plan boundary surveys were conducted and submitted by E.S. Coffin, Maine Engineers, and land surveyor Kane Coffin, PLS 1292. The boundary of the survey shows the existing site conditions, and where the snow melts, a boundary survey will be conducted to locate any missing boundary information. No deed restrictions or covenants. Item 5, contour lines are shown 2-foot intervals. Item 6, the proposed subdivision contains 1.42 acres and is proposed to be developed into an affordable housing development containing 27 apartments, dwelling units within 34 parking spaces. The existing school building will contain 12 building units, 5 one-bedroom, 5 two-bedroom, and 2 three-bedroom. The new building will contain 15 dwelling units, 9 two-bedroom, and 6 three-bedrooms. The proposed parking and entrance is shown in the subdivision plan. See the letter from the Police Chief, Public Works, with no objections to the plan submitted. The subdivision green space is shown on the plan. Traffic analysis. They used the 11th edition of the Institute of Traffic Engineers Trip Generation Manual, Land Use Code 223. Affordable housing development will generate 13 vehicle trips at peak hour. Aesthetic, cultural, and natural values. The proposed subdivision will not have an undue adverse effect on the scenic or natural beauty of the area. Aesthetics, historical sites, significant wildlife habitat identified by the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife or the municipality, or rare or irreplaceable natural areas or any public rights for physical or visual access to the shoreline. The proposed residential subdivision is infill development on an already developed parcel of land in the urban residential district. The reuse of the dwelling units will not have an undue adverse effect on scenic, natural beauty, aesthetics of the area. There is no historical sites, significant wildlife habitat on this parcel. Conformity with the local ordinances and plans. The proposed subdivision plan conforms with a duly adopted subdivision ordinance and comprehensive plan. In making this determination, the plan has interpreted the ordinance and plan. Yes, the proposed plan will add much-needed local residential rental housing for people that wish to live and work in the Fairfield area. This affordable housing project is consistent with the Fairfield subdivision ordinance and comprehensive growth plan, growth district, and housing supply. Financial and technical capacity. KV Cap has proven history of providing existing structures and buildings, new structures to meet housing needs. Funding for the Fairfield apartment project will be a large part of the tax increment issued by the Maine State Housing Authority. The application for this funding is due April 25th, 2025. Freshwater wetlands, not applicable. River stream, not applicable. Stormwater. The proposed subdivision provide for adequate stormwater management. The plan shows the stormwater flow. Letter from Public Works requests more stormwater details. Municipal boundaries, not applicable. This parcel, not applicable. Waivers. Decision. Based on the facts above, conclusion, March 3rd, 2025, the plan has voted. Conditions of approval. Okay. I will take, and who's taking notes on condition of approval?
I have them written. but
Oh, please, go ahead.
I make a motion that we approve the application as presented with the following conditions of approval. Condition number 1, the Fairfield Public Works Director approves the additional stormwater addition into the stormwater infrastructure on Preble Street. Number 2, the developer adds additional catch basins and stormwater lines on High Street at the exits from the parking lots in a manner approved by the Fairfield Public Works Director.
Okay. What else do we have, condition of approval on the sewer line in Preble Street?
So they've addressed that issue,
They're
and the
going
sewer
straight-
is now, for both buildings, is
Okay.
going to the manhole in High Street.
And is there a condition if there's adequate capacity available in that catch basin? That's done.
In the catch basin, that's number 1. So the
Okay.
Fairfield Public Works Director approves the addition of stormwater into the stormwater infrastructure on Preble Street.
But we're talking about sewer connections.
There's no proposed sewer connection in Preble Street.
Right. Okay. So the new one's going out?
Correct.
On High Street?
This is showing the sewer line
Gotcha.
coming out of this building, going to a manhole across the front of the school, and then going into
Gotcha.
the... So
Very good.
So the Public Works Director approved of that scenario.
What about, is there a condition approval on parking? Are we back to stacked parking to gain 10 more spaces?
I think there's no negative to it, as long as the Public Works Director approves the revised stormwater infrastructure addition on High Street.
Then that would be our intent. If the stormwater system is accepted, our intent would be to add back the double parking. I'm not sure how you handle that with handicap parking, but the other spaces certainly could be made double stacked.
Okay.
I mean, you'd add another 8 spots with
Right.
double stacked outside the,
Yeah.
I think that's what
So
that.
does your language need to be revised that there would now be 42 spots rather than 34 spots?
Can I make a suggestion on that?
Sure.
Just, it might be, if we could, is there some way of wording it that we can approve it based on the current number of spots and adding as many as we can, given the handicap issue? And, I mean, we haven't really
Looked at that.
We haven't really studied the implications of double-stack parking.
Well, a condition of approval could recognize that we've had a recent discussion about going back to stacked parking to facilitate, if there's two cars in an apartment, for example, and further discussion on handicap requirements, but let's make parking a condition of approval based on the change from the plan that's front of us tonight.
As opposed to, I saw you cringe.
No.
As opposed to coming up with a new number that would have to be met one way or no matter what, which is.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Which would be challenging.
Yeah, I don't think the law allows you to require more parking.
Oh, we're going by the law now?
Yeah.
This is the section of law that they
Okay.
do meet, they actually exceed it right now.
Right.
What I
with
think
that
we could do a condition of approval where, if approved by the Fairfield Police Department and CEO, an additional 10 spots could be added to the parking along High Street without coming back to the planning board.
Can I make a suggestion? Can you say, where you talk about the number of spaces, can you say at least? So where it says 34, at least 34 parking spaces, and approve it without a condition?
What you could say is the minimum that's required is met, and there's investigations on stacked parking to improve, not a requirement,
To
but
more fully address the police department's comments.
One of the things we can't do is approve the plan because they already supersede, or they already have
Yeah.
more parking there than the law requires. So we can't modify that by, if we approved a plan that said it has, that needs to have at least 34, we couldn't do that because we would be going outside the law. So they already meet the requirements. I just think there's the open conversation that they could potentially put 8 more spaces.
unless the LD 2003 police show up to take care of a parking problem, it's going to end up in the town of Fairfield. But to show that you're exceeding that requirement is great.
Right.
Right.
To me,
Right.
it's practical and realistic that people are going to show up with one car, or visitors are showing up with, and again, there's off-street parking for the visitors and that, but again, I'd feel real bad if I drove by there someday and saw people out front fighting over parking, because we
That's going to happen anyway.
I know, but again, the LD police aren't available tonight. So how do you word this? Go ahead, sir.
I don't know.
Without requiring more than.
I would think we could word it as the developer could add an additional 10 spaces without coming back to the planning board,
Okay. And again,
as long as they're
I like that.
approved by the Fairfield Police
And
Department.
you've got to look at the ADA requirements as
CEO.
well to make sure you meet that.
Right, so it's not saying that we're limiting how many could be added without coming back to.
Right.
So they can't triple stack, they can't add 2 more spaces in the parking lot closer to High Street.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so language along those lines for a condition of approval. Okay, if that's it on parking, is there anything else?
Well, the fire chief did talk about an engineered fire safety plan. Is that something we want to discuss? I mean, I think it's required anyway.
That's something that we can't provide at this time because of the building architecture, that's an architectural thing.
Right.
And that's something that's going to have to come from the architects.
Right, yeah, that I wouldn't think would be, I mean, that's a life safety thing, so.
I think that's
Well,
required by fire codes.
101 Life Safety Exit Code is
Right.
Yeah.
what it is.
Could you do a condition the CO on that?
Yep, condition that you receive the life safety and fire access plan in accordance with NFPA 1 and 101.
Yep.
It might be that grassed area may have to remain gravel. I don't know what they need for fire access lane on that side.
Oh, between the buildings?
Correct, it's gravel
Yeah.
right now, and you're proposing to put it lawn, but I think that
For access purposes.
that side of the building might need to remain gravel for access.
Oh, on the back of the building?
The back
Correct,
side towards
right,
gravel.
right here where you have lawn.
Yep.
That is gravel right now to give fire access to that side. So it may have to stay that way,
Okay.
depending on what they come up with.
Gravel's still somewhat pervious, so
Right.
should be all right. Sorry, just to clarify, would that be a condition? Or, I mean, isn't something like that just part of the, I mean, we wouldn't get
That'd be
our
required.
permit approvals.
It's
The
required
occupancy
as part
permit
of-
would
right.
Would be a
require.
requirement no matter what.
Correct.
So it's not a condition.
So it would just be redundant to add it as
Right.
another.
That is correct. It doesn't need to be a condition because you show the gravel road there now.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, and again, if there's further review, we'll know that as well. Is there anything else? Thank you there. Good point on that. Is there anything else that we need to list as a condition of approval so they can move on. Hearing none, I'd take a motion.
Make a motion to approve based on our conditions.
Based on those conditions.
Do you want me to repeat them?
Just really quick, highlight the three.
So, condition 1, Fairfield Public Works Director approves addition of stormwater into the stormwater infrastructure on Preble Street. Condition number 2, developer adds additional catch basins and stormwater lines on High Street at the exits of the parking lots in a manner approved by the Fairfield Public Works Director. Number 3, developer may add an additional 10 parking spaces to the parking along High Street if approved by the Fairfield Police Chief without coming back to the planning board.
I second that.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor?
Well, can I ask a question? I
Absolutely.
didn't think that we could add a condition about the parking if they're already exceeding what the law requires.
We're not adding a condition of a minimum.
Right.
We're adding a condition of a maximum. So without coming back. So they can add 10.
You can add 10 without
Right.
coming back.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just don't see the need to add it as a condition because it's really not a
It
condition.
really isn't because we're restricted by LD 2003.
The issue is that we're approving a site plan in a particular, and it doesn't show that. So if they do something outside, if the site plan changes, they would have to come back to planning board.
The site plan we're voting on tonight just shows, which we asked Jeff to do, is one row of parking. And we asked him last time, kind of in discussion, remove the paving where there's stacked parking.
Right.
He's now considering at no cost to leaving the paving there and on a site plan, maybe show stacked parking, which enhances the rentability of this thing if there's more parking than LD says we're supposed to have.
Okay.
It
So
doesn't.
this isn't a requirement of a condition. It's just allowing them to do that if they want to.
Yep, that they could modify this plan that
Got
we're
it.
approving
Thank you.
tonight to show stacked parking to, at no cost, obviously, to enhance the parking here on this site. That's all.
If approved by the police chief.
If approved, yep.
I just want to review what I had for a motion. So I had originally that Max made the motion and he made the suggestion on the conditions of approval. So I was writing down that Monica had seconded his
Okay,
That would make more
we'll
sense.
go that way.
Okay, so, all right.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I just want to make sure I got that correct.
My feelings won't be hurt.
All right, so
We don't
I got a first, a second, and 3 conditions of approval.
Correct.
Okay. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, and we voted?
We need to vote.
I'm a 4.
Okay,
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
so we set with that one now.
Now, I brought copies of this plan, which does not include the added parking or the catch basin. Do you want to sign that, or do you want to have me make these changes and come back and drop them off with Nicole, and you can swing by the town office and sign them?
That's what I would prefer.
Okay, what is your funding need? In other words, is it more important that we sign this document and just make a note about the parking may change? Is that more important to you for timing?
That would be the most helpful, probably, yes. If you're all are okay with that.
Okay. And the condition of approvals talks about all of this, so.
Correct. In their findings, right, I will definitely document it all. It's just that if they're filing that at the Registry of Deeds, it just won't show that infrastructure, the catch basin. And the other one is the second one is the stormwater infrastructure on High Street. That won't be there.
Right.
But the Public Works, that's just a statement you want from Public Works. And then they may add 10 more spaces. And if you absolutely want to see him remove the grass and add those 10 spaces. So the only change that would occur on this plan is the catch basin.
Right, the catch basin, and that's a minimal level of change. I could have that drawing back in a couple days if you want to wait and sign them later.
I would prefer to wait and, I mean, we can sign this one tonight, but before it goes to the Registry of Deeds, I think it should be the final plan.
I agree with that, actually, yeah.
So,
I was just thinking about.
if you need it for funding, I mean, I think the planning board is behind you in wanting this project to move forward, so I'm okay signing it.
You
but
got to vote based on these conditions, which is fine.
Yeah.
And to sign a correct Mylar that could get recorded, that's appropriate. We don't have a problem going to her office and doing that, but leave here knowing that, okay.
That's great.
Okay. Do they require
They don't take
Mylars?
Mylars.
Have one signed
Just
version out there
paper.
Yeah.
and not have to switch.
And those are minor notes and changes that you would make
Yeah.
on that document before we sign it.
Yeah.
I say do it.
I've actually seen it in other towns that have handwritten it on that night
Mm-hmm.
and then signed it, but this sounds better. It sounds like a better,
Well, I'll leave you with what my dad always told us. If you don't have time to do it right,
right,
where are you going to find the time to do it over?
yeah.
Okay, so bring us a
So,
updated map.
thank you very much, folks.
Good, thank you for
your time.
coming.
Thank you.
and Thank you. Great. Items by the public. There's no public here. Clerk, Nicole?
I had one item, and I emailed it to you guys. I have a resident that is in the shoreline zone on a non-conforming lot, and has a garage that needs to be rebuilt. It's not in good shape. The slab to it is good, that they did do maintenance on. So, in the shoreline zone ordinance, it says that if it's a non-conforming structure that is closer to the resource than the principal structure, that they can't, it's prohibited to expand it. And so what she wanted to do is bring in a modular home, two-story modular home within 50 feet of the water. I did talk to her today. I explained it's not allowed in the ordinance. This would be an application that would need to come to planning board.
Thank you. Good night, Jeff.
Good night.
Thank you all.
Not just her garage. If it's her garage and it's just maintenance, she's gonna take the garage and fix it, even if she has to take it completely down, as long as she doesn't expand it. That's just a building permit. But to change the use to an ADU, two-story,
Not allowed, is it?
it's not allowed, and I gave her that information. I just wanted to make sure that, you know, I was right in telling her that. That's why
What is the address? Where is this?
it's on Bunker Avenue.
Bunker?
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
So it's already a non-conforming structure?
non-conforming lot, non-conforming structure. So it's undersized lot for the urban residential, and her garage is already actually almost over, she owns the property next door as well, but it's almost already on the abutting property. And the house is outside the 75-foot shoreline zone setback, but the garage was pushed way behind the house, and that is in the zone. Of course,
So she wants the garage to be gone and put in a two-story double wide?
Structure.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
a modular, not
Modular.
double wide.
Okay.
So full basement, yeah.
And with LD 2003, we're not,
It's not, so that says, okay, so I have that law right here. It
Yep.
says within the shoreline zone, you know, you have to follow shoreline zone law.
Right.
So that's the one thing in that accessory dwelling unit law,
That
that
is-
they said it does not trump shoreline zone.
Gotcha.
So if somebody's property is too close to the water, then if it would be a no-build zone, without that, it's still a no-build zone.
okay.
I'm never in favor of making a non-conforming structure a lot any more non-conforming.
Right.
Like, and I get it, I get what she's trying to do, but at the same token, I don't think that sets a good precedent.
Right.
I read the documents that you provided to us, Nicole, and it certainly prohibits that activity.
Yeah, right.
So I would,
Okay. I just wanted to confirm
Continue to follow the
that
ordinance.
we all talked about it, and, okay.
It makes sense what you told them, and if you're not going to enforce an ordinance, burn it.
Why have
Why
it?
have
Why
it?
have it?
Right.
okay?
Right.
And there's reasons for that,
Right.
especially when you're putting double wides on the edge of the Kennebec to float downstream.
Yeah,
I was
it
gonna say,
wasn't,
It's not like there hasn't been a history
Well,
before.
it's been history, all right.
okay, thank you. That was the only thing. I just wanted to get some input on that,
Yep.
that I was on the right track,
Yeah.
the way I was reading
And do
it.
you want a straw vote on that? I think you have it.
Okay. No, it's not necessary. It was just a conversation I wanted to have, that I had read
Yeah.
it correctly, and that I was right in giving her that information. Thank
Very
you.
good.
That's all I had.
Items by members. Anything from the members tonight? Hearing nothing, I'd call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Have motion?
Second?
Second. All those in favor? Thank you for coming.
Thank you, everyone.